In this week's Parsha, we are introduced to Noach, to Noah from the flood story. The Torah gives a very intriguing introduction to Noach. It tells us, Noach ish tzadik, tamim haya b'derosov, that Noah was a righteous man in his generation. Rashi right away tells us that there are two different understandings of this verse. Yesh merabosenu darshim l'shvach, v'yesh merabosenu darshim l'ganai. That there are those amongst our rabbis who understand this verse to be a praise, and there are those from our rabbis who understand this verse to be an insult. Those who say this verse is a praise understand it to say that Noah was righteous in his generation. But had he lived in a generation of other righteous people, all the more so would he have been that much more righteous. Those who understand the verse to be an insult say Noah was righteous in his generation. But had he lived in the generation of Abraham, of Abraham our forefather, compared to Abraham, he would not have been considered anything. Most understand these two explanations of our rabbis to be two diametrically opposed understandings as to who Noach was. I would like to offer that our sages are actually explaining two different facets of the same exact person. Maimonides in his Hilchos Deos, chapter 6:1, teaches us that a person is drawn after his friends and his associates and his neighbors, and his actions and his ideas are shaped by his involvement with them. Therefore, a person must be very careful to cleave to the righteous and to connect to the wise so that they can learn from the actions and the ways and the understandings of the righteous and the wise. And we need to avoid the evil people, lest we, God forbid, learn from their ways. This idea of Maimonides has been transmitted throughout the generations and throughout the nations of the world. In fact, the famous motivator Jim Rohn was famous for saying that we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So I think with the understanding of Maimonides, we can take a new look at this position of our sages, at these two positions of our sages. That there are those who look at it as a praise and those who look at it as a put down. Yes, if you take Noah from the flood story, and especially after his demise at the end of the flood story, and compare him to the great Abraham, to the great Abraham, yes, he would not have been anything if you take that comparison. But if you take the Noah from the flood story, and instead of surrounding him with the evil that enveloped the world at the time before the flood, and you take that same Noah and put him in a generation of the righteous, with Abraham and those who surrounded Abraham, all the more so would this Noah have been affected in a positive way from the actions and the ideas of Abraham. Let us take the lesson as we delve into the story of Noach, that we have to be very careful with those who we surround ourselves with our friends, with our neighbors, with our associates. Because we are truly the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So when we choose those associations and we associate with those around us, we are truly building ourselves. This is Rabbi Landis, and this has been a Parsha Power Up.